Hi everyone, thank you for joining. So sorry we've had some technical issues today. We had problems getting in and now we're having problems with the cameras. So I do apologize about that. Hopefully you guys can all hear me. Please let me know in the chat if you can or cannot, I guess, hear me. I will definitely get right into it. Awesome. So I think we do have confirmation that you can hear me. Again, we do apologize for the delay there. We're really excited to be here today and to get into the HR tools and tips for job seekers. Yeah, we'll get right into it right away. And I just wanted to do a quick little introduction. Usually you can see me, but you can't right now. My name is Andrew Janzik, and I'm the recruiter and employer services lead at Eco Canada. So I do a lot of this sort of stuff in my day to day, looking at resumes, and I'm here today to try to provide some of the tips that can help you break into the job market and kind of get right in there and find a role in the environmental sector. My colleague that is with me, her name is Lauren Fletcher. She'll be joining us today as well and presenting. I will leave it right now. She's trying to figure out some technical stuff, so maybe she can do a little intro when she's ready. But yeah, we're happy to have you here today. We'll go to the next slide there. Perfect. So before we get started today, I just wanted to do a traditional land acknowledgement. I'd like to recognize the traditional Indigenous lands that Eco Canada's offices are based in Calgary. At Eco Canada, we're committed to working towards respectful acknowledgement, collaboration, and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples across Canada. This starts with acknowledging our honor and privilege to live in and work within the Treaty 7 territory. Today we're presenting from the city of Calgary, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We would also like to take this time to acknowledge the traditional territories and oral practices of the Nutsiapi, home of the Blackfoot Confederacy, which includes the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Gaini First Nations, and the Tsuut'ina and Ayer Nakota, which include Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Wesley First Nations. So we'd like to thank everyone and welcome everyone here today. So some housekeeping rules that we'll get started with. All participants in this, all five participants in this webinar are muted. So that's not for because we don't want to hear you. We definitely want to hear you. So we've got our chat box open on the side. Please feel free to use that throughout. It's just so that we don't have people speaking in and over speaking when the speakers are talking and discussing some of these tips and tricks. For any of the technical questions, like I said, or any questions at all, just use the side there. Lauren or I will be monitoring. I think we've got Brendan as well monitoring, so we're happy to help answer any questions as they come in. And then we will send out a recorded video session of the webinar 24 hours, within 24 hours of it finishing. So you will have a recorded video session as well that you can always go back to. Oh, there, I did my intro already too early. So this is what I look like and Lauren looks like. So I just wanted to introduce ourselves. Again, usually you can see the cameras, so maybe we can get those running throughout. We're trying kind of as we go. But yeah, a little background on myself. So again, I am the recruitment and employer services lead at Eco Canada. I've been with Eco Canada for about 2.5 years, and I really, really love working for the organization and doing work that hopefully provides meaning to the environmental sector and to building jobs in Canada, which I think is really fascinating. So I've been in HR for about 12 years in total, and I'd say the happiest years of my HR life so far have been at Eco Canada. So very happy with that. And then maybe Lauren, if you are there, you can do a quick little intro.
Sure, thanks, Andrew. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah.
Perfect. Hi, so my name is Lauren. I am the People Operations Manager with Eco Canada. I've been with Eco for about 5.5 years now, and my background, I have a degree in psychology from UBC, in addition to a variety of different business-related certificates. I've been in human resources for over 5 years now, and my expertise is more so on benefit administration, policy and documentation, and some professional development programming as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Lauren. So yeah, we're happy to be here today to try to provide some tips and hopefully answer some questions. So this is our agenda for today. Um, And basically, what we're looking to cover are resume application tips and application tips. So that's kind of right from the start as you're looking for work, starting to kind of, right from that moment you open the job description, you can really plan and have a set kind of strategy for getting that role. So what are some of the things you can do to help you as you're starting through the application process all the way through to the interview? What are common questions? What are common practices? Lauren will chat about that. I'll talk a lot about the networking piece and how important that is. LinkedIn as well. Utilizing some of these different tools so that you can really help yourself out and kind of get ahead of the game as you try to find a role in the sector and within the environmental sector. And then at the very end, we will have a little chat about what happens after you have actually landed the job. I think that that's a key piece, and obviously that could be its own discussion or seminar on its own, but we do want to have a little bit of information on there, and then at the very end, a discussion and a question and answer. So we'll open the floor up to the question box, I guess, and then if anybody has any questions, we can go from there. Perfect. Thanks, Lauren. Okay, so we'll start with a quick knowledge check. And we don't have an interactive slide for this, so please feel free to put your answer in the box, in the chat box. I'd like to see, out of everyone that we've got here, how long people think that it takes the average job seeker to find full-time employment in a career-related job. So not just in any job that could be, like just doing work to drive Uber or whatever, but just in a career related job. How long do you think that it takes when you're looking for a role? Does anybody think A, 5 to 10 days? Pop it in the chat if you do. Does anybody think B, 1 to 2 months? C, 2 to 3 months? D, 3 to 6 months? Or E, more than a year? So pop it in the chat. I'll give you a little second to think about it. Let's see, I'll put my answer. So I think it's D. If maybe even more. Let's see what it is. It's D. How did I know? So that's awesome. It's 3 to 6 months. That's actually not awesome. It's a long time. So when you're looking for a job, it's almost a full-time job, right? 3 to 6 months is a good chunk of a year. It takes a long time to find that role and to really settle into that role. So I think the point here is just that this is, like I said, a full-time job while you're looking for a job. And I know that's a lot of work and I know that it's difficult, but that's why we're here to help, to try to provide some of these tools and tips that can help get you through those 3 to 6 months and help you plan so that you can be in a space to become a successful candidate rather than just going through the process. So, some more numbers, which I find really interesting. Getting noticed is probably the hardest part of the application process. And you see this all the time, and it happens at all different levels too. It's not just, at entry level, it does happen all over the board. And some of these numbers are really quite interesting. So, up to 75% of applicants are not qualified for the role. So that kind of makes sense. 75% of people don't have all the qualifications necessary for the role. And as a recruiter, I think it's important to be aware of that because it's there's a lot of qualifications that you put in a job posting, and you can't expect somebody to have 100% of those. So this is a good number for you guys to kind of be aware of, because 75% of these people are not qualified in the first place. So the point here is put your application in, try to boost it and get it noticed if possible. So 80% of resumes are rejected in less than 11 seconds. That's a crazy number, very fast. 11 seconds, the recruiter's scanning probably two or three key pieces of information. Maybe if there's pre-screen questions, they don't even look at the resume, right? So make sure that you're kind of prepared for this, and we're going to help you get noticed so that your resume can really take on some of these more successful pieces that you can include within it. 2% of candidates will make it to the final interview. So very, very small number of candidates get through to the final interview. And it's important to remember that when you're going through this process, because you are going to go through a lot of rejections, unfortunately, regret emails, even sometimes later in the recruitment process, and that can be disheartening. So these numbers are here to show you, not to make you discouraged, but to show you some of the stats and just let you know, why it's important to try to focus on really making this your job of trying to get a job. So on our next slide, we've got some of our top resume and cover letter tips. So a lot of people, I think that resume and cover letter writing is kind of basic, and a chat GPT can definitely help you with it now, and there are tools that can help you with it, but there are still tricks that are human tricks that can really make you stand out, and that can help put you set that advantage for you. So I think it's really important to take this seriously and really kind of think about it from a analytical perspective as well. And one of the top tips I think that is really, really important is tailoring your job for each resume. So this takes time. It can be tedious for a lot of people, but it's really important to focus on the job description that you're applying for, whatever that job description might be, and then tailor your resume and your application. So that could be your cover letter, your communication with the recruiter or the hiring manager. Tailor everything to that job. So be very familiar with what is in that job description and what you need for that job. And that's really, really important because it shows that you, A, are very interested in the role, but B, you understand the role even just from an outsider's perspective. And then it has summary and most recent work history. I think this is really important. A lot of people will now put at the top of their resume like a summary of their skills or a professional summary. You can call it many different things. I think it's great to have a little sentence there, and you just put, what your focus is. Again, it's very obvious if AI writes it, I think. So try to write it from your perspective and tailoring it to that job. Formatting of the resume, super important. So make sure that your formatting is concise, aligned. You don't have grammatical errors, spelling errors. It makes sense in terms of how we're looking at it linearly, in terms of like most recent job on top. And people play around with that a lot, but I think, if you can keep it simple and straightforward for the recruiter, that's always going to be better. So you also want to remove any unnecessary information. And what this means is that you don't need to include maybe past roles or past experiences that don't play into the role and don't really play a part. Because again, the recruiter is only reading for maybe 11 seconds, in the minimum. But once they get into it, they don't want to read a text that's a full novel or a full book with different jobs from the past that may not be relevant. If there is relevancy, for sure, definitely keep it in there. But I would keep your roles fairly condensed, especially irrelevant jobs. Maybe just put a quick, worked at so and so for 3 years, and then a quick little blurb. But I wouldn't put too much information on there. And I know when I see a resume that's like over 1.5 or 2 pages, it becomes a little much. So, try to condense it. That's usually part of the professional sort of business world too, is saying what you can within a shorter period of time and nice and straightforward so people understand it. Don't use too much text. That goes into that as well. Just don't write a novel in there. Just condense it. Make it very easy for the person to read and understand. I think that I am a believer in the cover letter. Some recruiters don't love a cover letter. I think that it's great. I read most cover letters, especially if it's a candidate that we're considering. There's never been a candidate that we're considering where I don't read the cover letter. So very important. It provides a lot of context to me. I can see who that person is a little bit more before the interview and before the pre-screen. So really important to kind of provide that context. Now, some people might not read it, but you can't really go wrong by providing it, in my opinion. So it's not like you're going to be rejected for including a cover letter. It just shows that you care usually. Now, that being said, I would be very careful about AI again. Yes, AI is a great tool, and that's probably a theme kind of throughout. AI is a great tool, but be very careful how you use it. I see a lot of cover letters that are very clearly written by AI, or even just templates somebody's created and forgot to take out previous names or previous company organizations and addresses. So, make sure that those are tailored again. Don't lie. I think that's a really important one, not just in recruitment, but also just in general as you live your life. I think it's important not to lie. And I always heard somewhere that it's harder to keep lies up and just continue. Lies just continue to build, and it just becomes so stressful that people who lie a lot have a lot of stress and anxiety because you're always trying to beat out the lie. And the same thing that happens in recruitment. So if you lie about something on your resume and then you get through to the interview and a pointed question is asked and you don't actually know about that, it's very embarrassing and you can actually get caught in more lies. And then, the other person on the other side knows that you're just sort of flabbergasted in there. So don't even lie on the resume. Don't start that way. Just put down what you are good at. We'll talk a little bit about how to improve your resume so that you're not lying, but that you are highlighting skills that you have from the past that you can showcase and that you can, use. And then using appropriate file names, I think, is super important. So you don't want to have like a silly file name or something that is inappropriate. So just nice and basic, your first, last name, maybe the job title and the year, whatever kind of works for you. I think it's great to use a filing system when you're looking for work, and we'll talk about that a little bit too, so that you keep all your job descriptions and all your applications, and you can go back to them really quickly. Anyway, we'll get into that more. So, in some of those application tips that we're talking about, we already discussed reading the full job description, following the instructions on that job ad and job description. So, if it says to email it to a specific email address, then make sure you do that. Make sure you're sending it to that email address. So, follow any of those instructions. Sometimes, or actually, on all of our job applications, we ask for a cover letter. So, you'd want to make sure you include a cover letter. But yeah, just following through on all of those application instructions, I should say. Avoid calling the recruiter. I think this is really important. If every applicant called a recruiter every time that they applied, it would not be good for anybody. So, the recruiter is doing their best to check all of the applications. They are going through a lot of times on a job description, it will say only those selected to move forward with the job posting will be contacted. So, again, read that, understand that. It can actually work as a disadvantage if you start harassing, and I mean that's a bit of an aggressive word, but if you start contacting the recruiter too much, it can definitely work the other way. So, just be aware of that. Same on LinkedIn. It's totally fine to send a LinkedIn message to say, hi, I applied, thank you. You might not get a response, but don't continue to send messages and continue to pester the recruiter, because that's definitely not going to help your chances down the road. And then again, I think this is important. If you're ever applying for larger organizations or even small ones where the recruiter, deals with every job and they see the same applications coming in, if you kind of burn your bridge and continue to, I guess, pester the recruiter without better words, they could definitely see that name come in and just automatically move it to the no file. So, definitely just try to play it kind of smart that way. I talked about this already. Oh, yeah, making a note of the application deadline, very important. So you want to make sure if you are saving the application for later, that you don't miss that deadline, because it is usually a hard deadline and the recruiter's not going to wait for you just because you missed it. That being said, I think it's really important to usually apply for a job once you kind of see it and set your schedule on it. So maybe it's like, okay, I see the deadline. I have a week to do it, but I'm going to do it within the first 2 days. It's always better to get it in right away, because the longer you wait, the more chance somebody else is applying, somebody else is getting reviewed, the recruiter's moving on, or the job's changing, whatever it might be. So try to get it in right away, and then but still with thought and practice, but like within a time frame that works within that kind of deadline. I talked about saving a copy of the job description, so that's really important. I'd have a file going and then just have like different jobs that you've applied for. You could save a cover letter, resume, job description, any communication, that kind of stuff. Just so that when you do get that call back, or if you get that call back, you're prepared and you can just pull open that job description. You can say, oh yeah, like I mentioned here in my application, or whatever, that I agree with, the ethics and morals of this organization based on that, and you can just get really into it, and recruiters and managers love that because it shows that you've done your research. Definitely complete any pre-screen application questions. So if you do see those pre-screen questions, make sure that you're responding to them, and make sure you're responding to them truthfully, I think is really important. Recently, I've been in some cases where those questions weren't necessarily responded to truthfully. And then what ends up happening is you get down the road, and it ends up wasting, applicants' times, managers' time, my time, HR's time. So, it just does become a bit of an issue down the road. So just try to answer those questions properly, and then, again, don't lie. And just be as transparent as you can, and hopefully the organization will be transparent with you too. And then, do your research. Look at Glassdoor, look at PayScale, see what the average salary for that position is, and where they're at. You can go in with a much stronger position in the negotiation if you understand exactly what your value is in that role and in that position. So, understand too that there are pay scale ranges. So, depending on your level of experience, your education, your professional background, whatever it might be, there's going to be different ranges. So, it's good to have a range in there and kind of have a feeling for where you're at, like honestly within that range. And then spell check your responses, I think, is pretty straightforward. Always make sure that you're spell checking. I think one point here is if you're on an application page, sometimes they don't have spell check. So what I would do in that case is open a Word document and just either copy and paste your application from the page onto the Word document, or just do it directly on the Word document and then copy that onto the application after. I actually go that way and save on there, because sometimes the websites can be a little more glitchy. We talked about this already. So, treat your job search like a job, plan it. Um, Really try to organize your schedule, and sit down and plan it like you would a project, or even a university or educational thing, degree or certificate. Really plan it out as to what needs to be done. So create an action plan. How many days a week am I going to work on finding a job? How many hours a day? You don't want to burn out either. There are going to be limits to what you can do. But just kind of create that and limits around what's best for you. Not everybody's the same either. Some people prefer looking for a job at 11 at night at home on their computer, and that's totally fine. But just understand that, and then set your boundaries and your limits so that you can do it successfully without burning out. So establishing a routine can really help with burnout. So if you're going to do maybe a more standard kind of example would probably be, I'm going to work Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, or whatever, 3 hours a day at searching for jobs, or if you're at the start, maybe creating your resume, doing resume reviews, doing peer reviews, whatever it might be. But have a plan, I think, is the most important thing, and kind of try to stick to that plan. So when it's time to go, search for a job, or do your job work, you're ready to do that. So you're kind of setting yourself up for success. So again, it's really important to stay resilient when you're looking for work. Because it is challenging. It's not, I mean, sometimes you'll get lucky, and it will come along, quicker than other times. But the nature of our job market right now is there's so many jobs, there's so many employees, there's, candidates, there's just a lot out there. So it's really important to stay resilient. Take your job search seriously, really do set up some of those routines that we talked about, but keep a positive outlook on it. So, you're trying to do something that's bettering yourself. Yes, it's stressful, and yes, it is a lot of work, but it is something that is going to be beneficial to you down the road. And it is going to teach you a lot too. The more you do this stuff, the better you get at it. So just continue practicing it. Reach out if you need support. Eco Canada, a great example. You can come to Eco Canada. We've got support, lots of different trainings like today's, different options for, how to try to kind of continue to become better at searching for a job. I think another thing to remember is it's not personal. You're not People aren't rejecting you. They're rejecting um, basically what they're perceiving from a 15-minute sort of, or not even 11-second glance of your resume, right? So don't take that personally. It just means that maybe there's room for improvement on your resume or on certain things, but it's not a personal reflection of you. Ask for feedback. So it's great to ask for feedback. I get asked that question a lot. And I like to take the time to say, yeah, you know what, this is where I could have seen some improvement. But I also think this is where you did a great job. So I think it's good to kind of grow and get that feedback and learn. So don't be afraid to ask. Maybe some recruiters might not respond if they're really busy or if that's their style. Sometimes there's policies in place where you can't respond. So there's certain things, and again, don't take that personally, but don't be afraid to ask for feedback because it can definitely help you grow. And then I think this one's really important. Celebrate the small wins. Did you make it to the interview where only 2% of candidates make it through to? That's a win, right? So be happy about that and celebrate it. That's actually more of a big win. And even though you didn't get the job, you're on the right track. So you're in the right career area. You know that you're hitting the right marks. There might just have been some candidate that had one little piece that's a tiny little bit different from what you were offering, and the company wanted that. Or the organization wanted that. So, you've done a really great job. Celebrate that. Don't let it get you too down. I know it's frustrating, but so the importance of networking. I think networking is essential to any career in Canada. I think I saw a stat recently, it's like 82% of jobs in Canada are filled through networking, something very close to that number. So that's huge. That's massive. Um, and that's always been like that in Canada, actually, for a long time. I remember even my mom, when I was growing up, she used to say, "It's not what you know, it's who you know." And I'd always say, "No, no, I'm gonna out know everything," which I didn't. But it ends up she was right. It's all about who you know. So you have to know it, the technical side too, but a lot of people already have that as well. So you have to get in front of the right people, meet the right people, create friendships, and work, professional working friendships with people that are sharing similar passions and similar career pathways. So it also helps with future activities and opportunities. If you might even be in a role, but continue to network, because you never know when you are going to need that safety net or those people around you that can help support a career setback, or maybe a change of career goals or whatever it might be. Having that network can really, really be beneficial. And you'll never know it really is a small world. You never know who you'll run into down the road. So, make sure that you don't burn bridges either. And just learn about different careers, employers, what are colleagues doing? What are people in different industries doing? even different sectors or different types of organizations like not-for-profits or government, or follow up and with these all of these different things and kind of see what that's like, because the more different kind of diverse experience you can add to your network, the more you can call on that too. So definitely important to have a network within your immediate sector and immediate grouping of colleagues, but it's also important to have experience on that wider breadth too. So some networking do's and don'ts. I really like this slide. It seems sort of basic, but it's not. It's again something that takes a lot of practice. Networking can be very scary to a lot of people, um, and that's totally fair because you're getting in a room full of strangers and trying to talk to people, and I mean small talk with even our family and friends can be challenging. So it's definitely a skill. So some of the do's, still bring a business card. I think it's still important in today's world, even though we do have all that sort of technical side. I was chatting with our president this morning actually, and he was saying I still love getting business cards because it reminds me of their face, when I see the card, and I can say, oh yeah, remember that person. It's just another extra reminder, maybe a day or two later. For help and advice when possible, be there, be prep questions. I really like that because you can come in with questions to help, offer advice and chat, and or even ask questions with people. So if there's going to be an industry leader there, you can prep certain questions, do your research, who's going to be there. And then use people's names. So definitely be personable, smile, and kind of go that route. I think those are all great do's. Again, those are soft skills that take time to practice. So the more networking events you can go to, the better. And then don't talk to one person. You see a lot of people just chatting with their friend. Don't be afraid. So don't be afraid to go talk to a group. I know it's easy to say. There are skills and tactics you can work at for that. Don't overindulge. So if there's alcohol on offer, don't go too crazy. You can have a few drinks, and that's fine. Everybody's different too. Maybe you might not want to have a drink if one drink is enough for you, or just try not to go too crazy with that kind of stuff, because you can start to say things that may not be appropriate. Don't stare at your phone. That's a no-brainer. And then monopolize the conversation. So don't just talk about you. Ask questions about other people. And then I think one of my final slides here, I know, Lauren, I don't want to cut too far into your time. So, but LinkedIn, utilize LinkedIn as a networking tool. I think it's really important to do that. So, once you've met people in person, or even not, even online, people reach out to me all the time. Use it as a way to stay connected with people in your industry, in your, desired industry, your desired field, your role. There's, again, different people you can connect with that aren't all kind of in the same group. So try to kind of expand that. Make sure your profile is up to date. I think this is really important, especially as a recruiter. If you're looking for a job, I would definitely recommend updating your LinkedIn to the most recent, basically a live version of your resume. So you can highlight stuff on there. It's keep it all professional. Make sure your photo is updated. It's a new photo, not from 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Not that it's a huge deal, but it is important to kind of try to convey who you are right now as a professional. Follow the right people and companies. So follow what you're interested in, what the organization's interested in, and really kind of show that you're watching those feeds and new. Oftentimes there are links to articles and different research that's come out. So that can definitely show your interest there. Rewrite your headline or add your headline at the top of your page. So whenever you get a new role or whenever you change something on LinkedIn, it will often auto change your headline as well. I like to go in and just write a quick little blurb about what I do, what and at that time what my kind of value to the role is, or whatever it might be. But I kind of add a little headline there. Customizing a URL. So you want to make sure you can send that on your resume. I see that a lot where people have a customized URL on their resume, and I can just click on it and it takes me right to their LinkedIn page. I love that because it saves me, a few clicks. It's not huge, but it definitely shows that they're tech savvy enough to do that. And then on your LinkedIn page, you can do open for work status as well. So you can click your little tab and it will show open for work. That's a good way for recruiters who use LinkedIn Recruiter to find you for roles that maybe they might not see you otherwise. So they can do some headhunting, pull in everyone who's open for work, and then do it that way. Awesome. So I think that's it for me. I will turn it over to Lauren.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, so we'll switch gears here a little bit and chat about some interview tips. So, regardless of the type of interview that you might have, one of the ways that you can prepare is by thinking about the logistics of your interview and having a clear plan for the day. So, um, find out when and where the interview is being held and figure out how you're going to get there. So if you're planning on driving, maybe work out how long the journey is and where you'll park. You could even drive there ahead of time and kind of suss out the location. If you're getting public transport, make sure you know which buses and which trains you're going to get and the time schedule. That'll make sure that you're not late. So that's really important. And then if your interview is going to be virtual, also think about where you might have a quiet space to call from as well. You might think about contacting your references before your interview just to give them a heads up that they might be called upon to provide a reference. So that's good practice just so that they aren't being called out of the blue. You can also decide what you're going to wear ahead of time and get it ready so you don't have a last minute wardrobe crisis. Um, Make sure you review your job description and your resume. Make sure that you're really familiar with those key achievements and projects so that they're at top of mind as soon as you're asked about them. Research the company. This one's really important. So make sure that you understand what they do and what their core values are. And then preparing answers to commonly asked interview questions. I'm going to cover this a little bit in more detail in a minute, but practicing some of those answers in advance will really help you feel confident and prepared going into an interview. So there are typically three types of interviews, phone, video, and face-to-face. So I'll chat briefly here about phone interviews. This can also be called a pre-screen interview. So these are usually used as an initial part of the hiring process. It's a method to screen applicants. If you're asked to do a phone interview, you should prepare for it in a similar way to an in-person interview. So make sure that you have a copy of your resume and your cover letter. Um, Make sure you have a copy of the job posting as well to refer back to. Andrew mentioned about saving that in advance, so that's really important. And then find somewhere really quiet that has good reception as well. Some other things to consider, it's always good to answer the phone yourself. So if you are giving them a house phone, make sure that someone else isn't answering for you. Keep a glass of water handy, listen carefully to the interviewer, but it's okay to ask for clarification and ask questions if you don't understand what they're asking. Speak clearly and watch your tone of voice. This is really important in a phone interview because the hiring manager can't see your face and any of your expressions, so they're going off your voice alone. Take notes and then also prepare some questions to ask the interviewer as well. Video interviews. So these became really common during the pandemic, and a lot of organizations are still doing this type of interview, especially if it's a remote role that you're interviewing for. So there's two types that you might encounter, first being live and the second is pre-recorded. So live videos, these happen in real time with the process basically the same as in person, so you're speaking to them in real time. Pre-recorded interviews, these are on demand where someone will watch your interview at a later time. So in those ones, you'd read a question on the screen, record your answers, and then it would get sent over to the recruiter, I guess. And they usually give you a few seconds to read the question and prepare your answer, but they're not live. So for both live and pre-recorded, it's really important to check your connection and your equipment before your interview. So for your hardware, you can use whatever technology you have available. So a laptop, a phone, a tablet, anything like that, but make sure you have a power cable connected or that it's fully charged. If you're using a tablet or a cell phone, make sure that it's not too close to your face and maybe try and find a way to prop it up instead of holding it for the entire interview, because that can be a little bit shaky sometimes and a bit distracting for the recruiter. Software, so make sure you know what system they're using, whether it's Teams or Zoom or anything like that. If it's something that you've never used before, download it in advance and update whatever program it is on your computer so that it's ready to go. You might want to close other programs and apps that you have in the background, and also disable any notifications that you have on your phone as well, so you aren't disrupted or interrupted. Internet connection. So try and make sure that you have a strong internet connection. If you don't have one at home, maybe going to like a library or somewhere that does. Um, if you're in like a share home or you're living with roommates or something, you could also ask other people to turn off their devices or temporarily disconnect after your interview, until after your interview, just in case they're using up some of your good network. And then also, if a recruiter doesn't mention it at the start of your interview, just make sure you know how to get in touch with them just in case you lose connection. So make sure that you have a phone number or an email or something that you can reach out to them just in case. And then there are a few more tips here for video interviews to make sure that you're leaving a good impression. So make sure that you're dressing appropriately. Dress as if it was an in-person interview. This might sound like a no-brainer, but sometimes people think that a video interview means that it's less serious, or they can dress a little bit more casually, but I would still try and dress smartly and professionally. So it can also help you get in the right mindset as well for the interview. Again, make sure that you're not interrupted, so turn off all of your notifications. If you have pets or kids, try to ensure that they're in another room and they won't come in and distract you. Practice answering questions. I find this one really important. So it's always a good idea to, I guess, write down common interview questions, practice them out loud to a friend, even record yourself and then watch it back. You can check yourself for body language and become more comfortable talking into your screen. Make sure you're looking at the camera and not into your screen. It can be really tempting to watch the little picture of yourself on the screen, but try to look into the camera. It's kind of equivalent to looking or making eye contact with someone. So I think it's important to try and make that connection with your interviewer. Posture, so slouching, crossing your arms, resting your head in your hands, that can sometimes come across as boredom or lack of interest. So try and just maintain good posture. And then don't be afraid to use sticky notes as well. I like this tip as well. If you need some keywords to jog your memory or you want to recall past examples, you can kind of put sticky notes around your screen, like so that they can't see them in the camera, but it'll just help you remember it at a quick glance if there's anything that you want to jog your memory with. And then face to face. So these ones are probably ones that you might be most familiar with. So they usually occur after a successful phone interview or a screening interview. Typically, there's more than one person in the interview. So it would be yourself, a hiring manager, maybe an HR rep. But some tips, I would say preparation is super key. So, as we've already discussed, research the company and industry, practice common interview questions, and also get your references ready as well so that they're easily called upon if they're requested. Bring copies of your resume and maybe bring a spare just in case the hiring manager doesn't have one. They should, but you never know. It's always a good idea to have one for them or even for yourself to kind of walk through your resume with them if you need it. Be on time. So try not to be too early and never late. So you want to arrive early, but don't arrive like an hour early. Um, it can be awkward for the recruiters knowing that you're sitting in the lobby waiting. But also don't be late. It's disrespectful to the interviewer's time. So if you're thinking you're going to be late, if there's traffic or something happens, just call them and let them know as soon as you can, just so that they're aware. But on the other side, it's also a good idea to try and be a little bit early. So I would say plan to be about 10 minutes early. And then first impressions count. So smile, make eye contact, pay attention to your posture and body language. The interviewer will into all of those things as well. Sorry, I'm trying to go a little quickly. I'm trying to be mindful of the time. So the STAR technique. So some of you might have heard of the STAR technique before, but this is an interview method technique, I guess, that can help you prepare for interview questions. So recruiters typically ask behavioral type questions. And so they will typically ask you for an example of a time when you've done something. And the best way to respond to those is through the STAR technique. So presenting a situation, the task, the action that you took, and then the result. So these types of questions can really help employers determine whether candidates are right fit for the job based off previous scenarios and situations you've been in. This technique, it can help you prepare and make sure that you're demonstrating how you overcame any challenges or anything in your previous role. So I won't go into too much detail, but I would encourage you to Google it. Chat GPT, Google, they can give you kind of examples of ways to walk through a situation and explain it through the STAR technique. Common interview questions. So tell us about yourself. This is one of the most common interview questions. You might view this question as just an icebreaker, but it's actually a really valuable question for recruiters to get a glimpse into who you are and what your goals and priorities are, but also they can tell how prepared you are for the interview as well. So it's important to practice and be prepared for that one. It also is a good opportunity for you to set the tone for the rest of the interview and give you a little bit of confidence if you've prepared and practiced ahead of time. The answer to this should be an elevator pitch. So not too short, but also not too long. So I would try and keep it to a couple minutes or so, and then just try and highlight your best qualities in a really brief and honest way. Things you can include in that are things like why you're interested in the role or company, what qualities make you a good fit for the role, maybe past experiences that relate to the position. And then you can also briefly mention some of your personal interests if you'd like, or what your career goals are. But that one's really important to prepare for. These other ones on the screen are also good ones to practice as well. And you can do a Google search and figure out like a whole list of different common interview questions, and then you can help prepare ahead of time so that you're able to answer those quickly. After the interview, so whether it's on the phone, in person, video, no matter what method it is, it's always best practice to send a follow-up email. So a simple thank you email can go a really long way to show the interviewer that you're really genuinely interested in the position and that you're grateful for their time as well. So try and send a follow-up email or note the same day as the interview or the next day, I would say at the latest. A quick stat, actually. A survey we found online reports that 80% of employers take thank you notes into consideration when deciding to hire someone, but only 24%, I think, of candidates actually send them. So this is a really simple step that can help you leave an impression and kind of give you a good chance after you've got off the phone or out of an interview with them. Okay, so once you land a job, I guess, we've put together some tips on how you can start things off on the right foot and make sure that you're starting off with a positive first impression. So do your research, try and learn as much as you can about the company and their services before you start. That'll show that you're prepared, but it'll also help you learn your job a little bit quicker and easier. Ask questions, ask for input when you aren't sure. It's always better to ask questions ahead of time than do something wrong and then have to go back and correct it. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Participate in meetings and conversations. It can be intimidating to speak up, especially when you're new to a job, but don't forget that you're hired because of your skills and your experience. So you might be able to add valuable input to those conversations. Get to know your coworkers, develop relationships. We spend a lot of time at work, so it's important to start building relationships with your coworkers, and you might even make some new friends along the way. Put in the hours, so show up a little bit early, be willing to stay late if needed, but be mindful of your work-life balance, of course, but always be, I guess, willing to put the effort in. Ask for feedback. So if you're not getting feedback, maybe seek it. You can ask your manager, your peers, whether it's positive or negative. Just try and accept it as a learning opportunity and make changes to anything that needs attention. Communication, figure out the best way to communicate with your team, whether it's through email, in person, chat. It'll help you understand the culture of the organization and kind of get up to speed. Pay attention and show interest in what you're learning, take notes, um, have a positive attitude. Companies also want to see that you're going to be a positive addition to their team and to the company. So make sure you bring your smile and be friendly and show that you have the right attitude. If there's any events or office activities happening, I'd encourage you to attend them and participate. It's a really good way to get to know your coworkers and get to know the culture of the office as well. And then lastly, update your LinkedIn profile as well. So if you've started a new job, update your LinkedIn with your new title and your employer, and start sending connection requests to your new coworkers as well. Some common mistakes new employees might make when they first start a job. So not asking enough questions or clarifying expectations, keeping to yourself, taking on too much work. Sometimes you want to say yes to every little thing, but it's also important to set some boundaries as well. So if you take on too much, you might end up overwhelmed and it might be easier to make mistakes. So talk to your supervisor if you think that you're in over your head. Ignoring corporate culture. So you might be used to doing things a certain way from a previous work experience, but every company has their own policies and procedures and culture. So that's why it's important to get to know your colleagues, get up to speed with how the company operates, and understand their vision and mission as well. And that'll help you integrate into the company. Trying to change things right away. The company might do things in a certain way for a certain reason, so learn it first before trying to make any changes. And then try to avoid getting involved in any office politics or gossip, and try and keep that positive attitude. I'll run through this one quickly. I know we're really short on time here, but so a few things to keep in mind when you're starting a new job. So in your first month, again, get to know your team and your colleagues better, attend to any onboarding sessions and orientations, set up some good habits and get organized, start setting up your calendar, find a good way to take notes, start learning the different programs and platforms and languages. If you aren't familiar with any of them, maybe start looking at some YouTube tutorials or some online free courses to kind of help you as you learn. Um, Chat about your expectations with your manager and what defines success. So what does it look like to be successful in the role? Be open-minded to learning, show enthusiasm and passion and that positive attitude again, and take notes. I think that's really important. And then in your first 3 and 6 months, so make sure you understand your goals, you're challenging yourself, ask questions, speak up in meetings. If your organization doesn't do it for you, try and set up that 3 month probationary review so that you can get some feedback and understand what you're doing well and if there's anywhere that you need to continue to develop. And then in your first 6 months, so make sure that you're connecting with colleagues within your organization. Maybe on LinkedIn, start reaching out to a network within your industry as well. Again, ask for feedback and identify any professional development opportunities to kind of help you continue to grow and learn within your role. So it's 2:59. We did it. We're just in time, but we will stay on. I know we're right at the end here. So if there's any questions, please feel free to throw them in the chat box. Otherwise, the recording of this video will be sent out. We'll get it sent to Wanda and she can share it with all of the participants. And then we are also offering one-to-one sessions with it'd be with myself or Andrew likely. If you need any support with kind of resume writing or you want to do interview prep or anything like that, we can support as well. So you can reach out to Wanda and she can connect with us and we can get something set up. Did you have anything else, Andrew, that you'd like to add?
Nope, I'd just like to say thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'll stay on the line here for a couple minutes. If there's any questions, you can throw them in the Q&A or the chat box. Otherwise, yeah, thanks so much.